What if I told you that Buddhism isn't really a religion? No dogmas, no belief in a God who controls your fate, no promise of heaven if you obey, no guarantee of some eternal soul that survives death. Instead, it's something far more unsettling and, if you're willing to sit with it, far more liberating. For most of us, that's a shock. We grow up in cultures where religion means commandments, rituals, sacred texts, a higher power that tells us what to do. We're taught that to live well you need faith, and without faith you're lost. But Buddhism flips that script completely. It doesn't ask you to believe blindly. It doesn't even care if you believe at all. It says don't believe, test. Don't worship, experience. Don't cling, let go. That's why so many people call it the religion of no religion. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us believe because we're afraid. We're terrified of death, terrified of emptiness, terrified of the idea that the universe might not care about us at all. Belief becomes a security blanket. When life crashes down, it feels easier to imagine there's a plan, that someone up there is keeping score, that all the pain is part of some story with a happy ending. Think about the last time you went through something hard. Maybe you lost a loved one. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe the relationship you thought would last forever suddenly ended. In those moments, how badly did you want someone to say, "Don't worry, it's all part of the plan"? That hunger for meaning is so deep it can feel like oxygen. But the Buddha looked at this impulse and said, let it go. Don't invent gods to comfort yourself. Don't wrap your fear in pretty stories. Face reality exactly as it is, even if it hurts, even if it breaks your heart, even if it shatters your identity. That sounds harsh, right? But here's the question. What's more powerful? Living forever behind illusions, or standing in the storm with your eyes wide open? A friend of mine grew up in a strict church community. Every time something went wrong, people would say, "It's God's plan." When her father died suddenly, she repeated that phrase like a mantra. On the outside, she looked faithful. On the inside, she was drowning, saying God's plan didn't heal her grief. It only postponed it. Years later, she stumbled across a Buddhist retreat, and someone told her, yes, loss is real. Yes, it hurts. And no, you don't need to explain it away. Sit with it. Feel it. Let it break you open. Don't run. That raw honesty felt brutal at first, but in that moment, she cried harder than she ever had. And that was the start of real healing. And that's the point. Buddhism doesn't hand you answers. It hands you tools. Meditation, mindfulness, compassion. These aren't rituals to please a god or buy you credits in heaven. They're experiments. You don't have to believe in reincarnation. You don't have to believe in karma. You don't even have to believe in the Buddha himself. You just have to try, like a scientist testing a hypothesis. That's why people who once said, "I'm not religious," still find themselves drawn to Buddhism. It doesn't feel like a religion. It feels like a practice. And the lab isn't some faraway temple. It's your own mind, your own heart, your own life. And here's why this matters so much right now. Look around. We live in a time of chaos and uncertainty. Climate change, wars, economic collapse, technology moving faster than we can even understand. It's no surprise anxiety is at an all-time high. It's no surprise conspiracy theories spread like wildfire, or that self-help gurus pop up in your feed every day promising secret formulas for happiness. We're starving for certainty, desperate for something solid to hold on to. But what if the answer isn't to cling harder to beliefs? What if the answer is to let go of belief entirely and start seeing clearly? That's Buddhism's radical gift. It's not here to make you comfortable. It's here to wake you up. Now, let me bring this closer to home. Think about how you handle stress. Some of us binge watch Netflix. Some scroll endlessly on TikTok. Some dive into political debates online, hoping that if our side wins, everything will finally make sense. All of these are, in a way, many religions, stories we tell ourselves to avoid sitting with uncertainty. But Buddhism whispers, stop running, stop hiding. Notice the craving, the fear, the restless mind. Don't escape it. Watch it. And when you do, something shocking happens. The fear doesn't control you anymore. The craving doesn't run the show. You begin to see that peace isn't on the other side of belief. It's on the other side of letting go. And this isn't abstract. Let me share another story. A man I know, a high-powered lawyer, spent his whole life chasing status. First it was law school, then the big firm, then the partnership, then the house in the right neighborhood. He kept thinking, once I get there, I'll be at peace. But when he got there, all he wanted was more. He came across Buddhist meditation almost by accident, and at first he thought it was a joke. Sit still, watch your breath. What does that have to do with success? But something inside him cracked open. For the first time, he saw how his entire life had been driven by fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of not matching. And when he started practicing, even in small doses, he felt glimpses of freedom. Not because he got more, but because he needed less. That's why Buddhism is called a religion of no religion. Because it doesn't offer you belief. It offers you freedom from belief. It doesn't give you answers. It gives you the courage to live without needing them. And here's where I want to challenge you. Don't just nod along to these words. Don't just treat this like another video to check off your watch list. Ask yourself, what belief are you still clinging to? What story do you tell yourself to make life feel safe? And can you imagine letting it go, even just for a moment, to see what's really there? That's where this journey begins. Not in faith, not in dogma, in practice, in awareness, in the courage to open your eyes. And if this resonates, stay with me for part 2, because we'll dig even deeper into why letting go of belief doesn't make life emptier. It makes it richer. Before you scroll away, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and tell me honestly, what belief do you hold on to the most and why? Share it, because chances are you're not alone. So if Buddhism isn't about belief, if it's not about clinging to some higher power or memorizing rules, then what is it? The simplest way to put it is this. Buddhism is about practice. It's not about what you say on Sunday mornings or what label you put on your social media bio. It's about what you actually do moment by moment, day by day, when life gets hard, when your mind spins out of control, when your body aches, when you're staring into the chaos of reality with no guarantees. Think about it like fitness. You don't get in shape by reading about push-ups. You don't get strong by posting gym quotes on Instagram. You get strong by showing up, sweating, and doing the reps. Buddhism works the same way. The religion of no religion is really a training plan for your mind and heart. It's not about worshiping the Buddha. It's about becoming awake like the Buddha. And here's the twist. Awakening isn't some magical lightning bolt from the sky. It's simply seeing clearly without the fog of craving, fear, and delusion. But let's be real for a second. We live in a culture obsessed with shortcuts. Hack your productivity. 10x your income. Lose weight fast. Manifest your dream life in 30 days. We've been sold this idea that life is a game you can cheat if you just find the right formula. Buddhism laughs at that. It says, there's no shortcut, but there is a path. And that path is walking into the fire of your own mind instead of running away from it. If part 1 was about stripping away belief, Part 2 is about learning what to do once belief is gone. And here's the answer. Practice presence. Practice awareness. Practice compassion. It sounds simple, but it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Let me tell you about Aaron, a guy I met in Los Angeles. He was the kind of person who always had a plan. Calendar full, 5-year goals mapped out, podcast queued, supplements stacked. He lived by productivity hacks. But no matter how many things he achieved, he always felt restless, like life was slipping through his fingers. At a meditation workshop, the teacher told him, for the next 10 minutes, don't try to achieve anything. Just sit. Just breathe. Aaron laughed. 10 minutes? Doing nothing? He thought it was ridiculous. But he tried. And in those 10 minutes, he noticed how much he hated stillness. He noticed the buzzing in his chest, the constant urge to check his phone, the way his brain raced from one task to another. It was unbearable. But it was also the most honest mirror he'd ever looked into. For the first time, he saw that his addiction to achievement wasn't making him free. It was making him a prisoner. That's Buddhism in action. Not belief, not theory, but practice. Sit, notice, wake up. And here's the thing. Practice doesn't mean retreating to a cave or quitting your job. It means taking the raw materials of everyday life, stress, anger, joy, boredom, and turning them into a lab for awareness. You get cut off in traffic? That's your practice. You feel jealousy rise when your friend succeeds? That's your practice. You lie awake at night replaying old conversations? That's your practice. Buddhism says everything is workable if you're willing to face it. And that's where the courage comes in. Because most of us would rather escape. We'd rather numb out with Netflix, drown in alcohol, scroll TikTok until our eyes hurt. Why? Because sitting with our own minds feels terrifying. But here's the paradox. The more you run, the more trapped you become. The more you stop, the more free you are. And don't get me wrong, practice isn't about perfection. You will fail. You'll get lost in thought. You'll snap at people you love. You'll forget to breathe. That's okay. The Buddha himself said the path is messy. What matters isn't never falling. What matters is waking up every time you notice you're lost. That's the real miracle of practice. It doesn't make you superhuman. It makes you real. And realness, in a world built on illusion, is revolutionary. Now, let me flip the question back to you. How do you practice presence in your life right now? Do you? When was the last time you stopped, really stopped, and noticed your own breath? When was the last time you paid attention to the taste of your food instead of shoveling it down while scrolling? When was the last time you listened to someone? Not to reply, not to argue, but just to hear them. If the answer is, I can't remember, that's not a judgment. That's an invitation. Buddhism isn't about shame. It's about opportunity. Every single moment is a chance to wake up. Even this moment, right here, as you're reading these words. And this is why Buddhism still resonates today, especially in America, because our culture teaches us to chase. Chase money, chase beauty, chase success, chase happiness. We're like hamsters on a wheel, running faster and faster, but never arriving. Buddhism says, stop chasing. What you're looking for isn't out there. It's here, now. And when you see that, even for a second, you taste freedom. Not the kind of freedom politicians talk about, not the kind of freedom you buy with money, but the deepest kind. Freedom from yourself. I'll share one last story. Sarah, a nurse during the pandemic, was overwhelmed. Long shifts, constant fear, endless grief. She told me she almost broke. One night, Instead of collapsing in bed, she sat down, closed her eyes, and just breathed. She noticed her exhaustion, her anger, her despair. She didn't push it away, didn't cover it with positive affirmations. She just felt it, and in that raw silence, she realized something. Even though she couldn't control the chaos around her, she could meet it with awareness. She couldn't stop the storms, but she didn't have to drown in them either. That shift didn't erase her pain, but it gave her strength. And that's practice. That's the religion of no religion in action. So let me leave you with this challenge. For the next 24 hours, pick one moment where you normally run away, whether that's reaching for your phone, snapping in frustration, or numbing out, and instead pause. Just pause. Breathe. Notice what's really happening. That's it. No belief required, no ritual, no dogma, just awareness. Do that once, and you've already stepped onto the path. And if you want to keep walking, stick with me for part 3, where we'll build your personal daily kit for living awake in a world that keeps trying to put you back to sleep. So now we've stripped away belief in part 1, and in part 2 we learn that Buddhism is less about dogma and more about practice, showing up moment to moment. But here's the problem. Inspiration fades fast. You might listen to a talk like this and feel lit up, motivated, even transformed for a night. But then, Monday morning hits. Emails pile up. Your boss wants results. Your kids are screaming. The rent is due. And before you know it, you've slipped back into autopilot. That's why the Buddha didn't just preach philosophy. He gave people tools. Think of it like a daily kit, a set of practices you carry with you the way a firefighter carries gear into a burning building. Because make no mistake, modern life is a burning building. It's hot, loud, chaotic, and dangerous. If you don't carry the right gear, you get consumed. But if you do, you can walk straight into the flames and come out alive, even steady. So, let's build your kit right here, right now. The first tool is the simplest and the hardest, the pause. In Buddhism, it's called mindfulness, but don't let the word get abstract. The pause means before reacting, before snapping, before drowning in thoughts, you stop. Just for a breath. One conscious inhale. One conscious exhale. That's it. It sounds like nothing, but it's everything. Neuroscience today confirms what the Buddha saw 2,500 years ago. Between stimulus and response, there's a gap, and in that gap is your freedom. The pause is what stops the cycle of anger, fear, craving from running your life. Picture this. You're in traffic. Someone cuts you off, your blood spikes, and before you know it, you're screaming. That's autopilot. But imagine instead, just for one breath, you notice the surge of anger. You don't push it away. You don't act it out. You just pause. Suddenly you're free. The world didn't change. The traffic didn't disappear. But you didn't get hooked. That's the first tool. The second tool in your kit. Anchor yourself in the body. Buddhism calls this awareness of the body, and it's not mystical. It's practical. When your mind spins, your body grounds you. Next time anxiety hijacks you, don't fight your thoughts. Drop into sensation. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your hands resting. Notice your shoulders. Maybe they're tight. Maybe your chest is heavy. Instead of running from that, stay. This is why meditation often begins with the breath. It's always here, always real, always now. In a world where everything feels like it's pulling you out of the moment, your body is the one thing that can bring you back. Think of it as your home base. No matter where your mind goes, you can always come home to the body. The third tool, reframe craving as a teacher. We spend so much time trying to suppress desire or indulge it, but Buddhism offers another option. Learn from it. Notice what happens when you crave food, attention, likes, validation. Instead of judging yourself, get curious. Where do you feel it in your body? What story are you telling yourself about why you need it? If you don't act on it, does it grow? Does it fade? Does it transform? Every craving is a free masterclass in impermanence. You don't need to believe in reincarnation to see that desire arises and passes. And once you see that clearly, craving loses its power. It stops owning you. The fourth tool, compassion. Not the Instagram quote version, but real, gritty compassion. Because the truth is, awareness without compassion can turn cold. You can become detached, aloof, self-righteous. The Buddha warned against this. Compassion isn't about being soft. It's about being strong enough to open your heart even when it hurts. Imagine your coworker snaps at you. Autopilot says, snap back. Awareness says, pause. Compassion adds, maybe they're in pain. Maybe they're drowning, just like you. This doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means refusing to add more poison to the world. Compassion turns awareness into love, and without it, practice dries up. The fifth tool, remembering impermanence. Every moment you cling to something as if it's solid, life will prove you wrong. The Buddha taught this not to depress us, but to free us. Think about your worst fight, your darkest mood, your most crushing fear. Did it last forever? No. It rose, it fell, it passed. And so will the one you're in now. Carrying the awareness of impermanence in your kit means you stop treating every problem as permanent. You learn to ride the waves instead of drowning under them. And finally, the sixth tool, community. The Buddha didn't wake up and then disappear into a cave. He built a sangha, a community, because he knew we can't do this alone. You can download every meditation app, read every book, but without people walking the path with you, you'll quit when it gets hard. That's why I'm inviting you. Don't just listen passively. Comment, share, connect. This isn't about me talking at you. It's about us practicing together. Even online, even across the world, we can be a sangha, and that matters because when you fall asleep, someone else can nudge you awake. When they fall asleep, you can nudge them. That's how we keep going. Now, maybe you're thinking, this all sounds nice, but life is too messy. I don't have time to sit and breathe. I don't have the patience to watch cravings. I don't have the luxury to be compassionate when I'm exhausted. I get it, but here's the secret. The daily kit isn't about adding more to your to-do list. It's about weaving practice into what you're already doing. Washing dishes, that's awareness. Walking to your car, that's mindfulness of the body. Feeling stressed in a meeting, that's your chance to pause. You don't need a temple. You don't need incense. You don't need to shave your head or wear robes. Your life, exactly as it is your practice ground. And if you try this, even for a day, you'll see the difference. Not because life gets easier, but because you get steadier. The storms still come, but you don't get blown away. The cravings still arise, but they don't control you. The anger still sparks, but you don't let it burn the house down. That's what freedom looks like. Not escape, not denial, but resilience. So here's my challenge for you right now. Pick one tool from this kit and actually try it today. Just one. Maybe it's the pause. Maybe it's the body. Maybe it's compassion. Don't wait for the perfect moment. There isn't one. Try it now. Try it messy. Try it in the middle of your ordinary chaos. And then notice what shifts. Because if you practice even once, you're no longer just listening. You're living. And that's the whole point of Buddhism. It's not about believing. It's about doing. It's not about ideas. It's about transformation. So don't stop here. Carry your kit into tomorrow. Carry it into your stress, your relationships, your work, your dreams. And then join me for part 4, where we'll zoom out and see how this practice isn't just about surviving your own life. It's about transforming the way you walk in the world. But for now, don't just nod along. Pick your tool. Use it. Wake up. Because the truth is, life won't wait. And neither should you. We built the foundation in part 1 by going straight into the principle of non-belief. No gods, no blind faith, no illusions to hide behind. In part 2, we discover that Buddhism is practice, not dogma, moment-to-moment training that rewires how you meet life. In part 3, I handed you a daily kit, a set of tools you can carry with you into traffic jams, tough conversations, sleepless nights. But now in part 4, we zoom out, because this isn't just about hacks for stress management or temporary relief. This is about playing the long game. This is about transforming not just how you survive today, but how you live your whole life. And here's the lesson. Awakening is not a one-time event. It's not some mountaintop you climb, take a selfie, and declare victory. It's a lifetime of practice, a lifetime of returning, a lifetime of opening your eyes again and again, even when you'd rather shut them. And the long game of Buddhism asks, who are you becoming breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by moment? Let's be honest. Most of us want quick fixes. We want hacks that melt stress in 5 minutes, diets that get us slim in 2 weeks, books that promise enlightenment in 30 days. But life doesn't work that way. You don't go to the gym once and stay fit forever. You don't say, I love you, once and keep a relationship strong forever. Everything alive requires tending, again and again. That's why the Buddha compared practice to tending a garden. You water it every day, not because you expect a tree overnight, but because over time, with steady care, roots grow deep. That's the long game. Stop chasing fireworks. Start tending your garden. Here's the lesson most people miss. The daily kit only matters if you use it consistently. Anyone can pause once. Anyone can feel their breath for 30 seconds. But transformation comes when you keep showing up, even when it's boring, even when it feels like nothing's happening, even when you'd rather scroll your phone. That's why they call it practice, not performance. You practice, you fail, you return. And slowly, quietly, invisibly at first, something shifts. You find yourself less reactive. You find yourself kinder. You find yourself laughing at things that used to trigger you. And one day you realize this isn't just about stress relief. This is about freedom. But let me give you a warning. The long game will test you. There will be days you'll want to quit. Days when sitting still feels impossible. When awareness feels like a burden. When compassion feels fake. You'll think, what's the point? That's when the real work begins. Because awakening isn't about chasing bliss. It's about staying awake even in discomfort. It's about facing life as it is, not as you wish it to be. That's the hard truth, but also the liberating one. Because when you can face reality without running, you become unshakable. Think of Sarah from Part 2, the nurse who practiced awareness in the middle of exhaustion. Or Aaron from Part 2, who realized achievement was a prison. They didn't transform in a day. They transformed by showing up again and again in the mess. That's the long game. Not glamorous, not instant, but real. And real transformation doesn't fade when the seminar ends, when the app subscription expires, when the motivational high wears off. Real transformation stays because it's woven into how you live. So what does this mean for you here right now? It means stop treating this series or any teaching as entertainment. Stop consuming it the way you consume Netflix, scrolling from one story to the next. Instead, commit. Pick one practice, one tool, and stick with it. Not perfectly, not rigidly, but steadily. 5 minutes a day. 10 conscious breaths before bed. A single pause before you snap at your partner. Do that every day, and you'll see the compounding effect. Just like compound interest builds wealth, compound awareness builds freedom. That's the long game. And now the ask. This is where I turn to you, directly. I'm not here to give you a show. I'm here to invite you into a community of practice. If this spoke to you, don't just walk away unchanged. Engage. Leave a comment below. What's the hardest moment for you to pause? What's the one craving that owns you the most? What tool from the daily kit do you want to carry forward? Share it, because putting it into words makes it real. And when you share, someone else reads it and thinks, me too. That's how community forms. That's how Sangha begins, even online. And yes, I'll ask you plainly, subscribe, follow, stay connected. Not because I need numbers, but because you need reminders. We all do. The long game requires reminders, nudges, companions on the path. When you hit subscribe, you're not just signing up for content. You're signing up for accountability, for steady encouragement, for a Sangha that refuses to let you fall back asleep. That's the ask. So here's where we land. The lesson is simple, but not easy. Awakening is not a destination. It's a lifelong practice. The long game is where the real transformation happens. Not in a weekend, but in a lifetime. And the ask is clear. Don't just listen. Live this. Don't just believe. Practice this. Don't just drift. Commit to the long game. Because here's the final truth. Life isn't waiting. Every moment you spend asleep is a moment you'll never get back. Every moment you practice is a seed planted for freedom. Which side do you want to live on? That's the choice in front of you right now. And the long game of Buddhism, the religion of no religion, is nothing more and nothing less than choosing to wake up again and again for the rest of your life. So we've torn down blind belief in part 1. We've seen in part 2 that practice is the heart of Buddhism. We built a daily kit in part 3. And in part 4, we committed to the long game. Now comes part 5, the part that asks, what does this look like when you're not just alone on your cushion, but living awake in the messy, complicated relational world? Because let's be honest, it's easy to feel mindful when you're sitting in silence, candles lit, phone off. The real test is when you're in a meeting and your boss is taking credit for your work, or when your partner forgets something that mattered deeply to you, or when your child throws a tantrum in the grocery store. Awakening isn't proven in the quiet moments. It's proven in the chaos. And part 5 is about bringing presence into every corner of life, relationships, work, society. Because if your practice doesn't show up there, it's not real practice. Let's start with relationships, because that's where most of us suffer the most. We crave connection, but we also crave control. We want love, but we want on our terms. And when people inevitably disappoint us, anger flares, resentment builds, walls go up. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering, and nowhere is that clearer than in love. How often have you told yourself, I'll be happy if they just act the way I want? That's not love. That's bargaining. Real love, awake love, isn't about controlling someone else's behavior. It's about showing up with awareness, with compassion, with presence. Imagine a fight with your partner. On autopilot, you defend, attack, shut down. But with awareness, you notice your chest tightening, your face heating, your urge to lash out. You pause. You breathe. You remember, this person isn't your enemy. They're another human, just as lost and hurting as you. And suddenly the fight changes. Maybe you still disagree, but now there's space for kindness, space for listening. That's practice alive in relationship. Now take work. Most of us spend half our lives there, and yet it's the last place we think of bringing awareness. We treat work as a battlefield. Winners and losers, promotions and failures, endless striving. But what if work was also your practice ground? Imagine walking into a meeting not as a gladiator, but as a practitioner. You pause before speaking. You listen, not just to reply, but to actually hear. You notice your craving for recognition, your fear of being overlooked. And instead of letting those drives control you, you meet them with awareness. That doesn't mean you stop being ambitious. It means you're not enslaved by ambition. You can work hard, you can succeed, but you don't lose your soul in the process. And ironically, people trust you more. They feel your presence. They sense you're grounded. Awareness makes you more effective, not less. That's the paradox. And what about society? The bigger picture. We live in a time of outrage, polarization, division. Social media thrives on anger. News cycles feed on fear. It's easy to get swept into tribalism, to see the other side as evil. But here's the challenge. Can you bring awareness even here? Can you scroll your feed and notice, wow, my body is tightening. My anger is rising. My mind wants to dehumanize strangers. Can you step back, breathe, and remember, everyone is caught in craving, in fear, in delusion, including you? This doesn't mean ignoring injustice. The Buddha wasn't passive. He confronted suffering head-on, but he did it with clarity, not hatred. Awareness allows you to fight for justice without becoming consumed by rage. That's living awake in society. Firm but not bitter, active but not poisoned. Now, I want to tell you a story. Maria, a single mother in New York, told me she used to explode at her kids when they didn't listen. She'd scream, slam doors, then drown in guilt. She discovered mindfulness almost by accident through a free app. At first it felt pointless. But one night, when her son spilled juice all over the carpet, she felt the rage rising, the familiar script about to play. But instead of screaming, she paused. Just one breath. She noticed her fists tightening, her throat clenching. And then she looked at her son, not as an obstacle, but as a child, scared and clumsy, learning. She didn't scream. She cleaned up the mess. And later, she cried, not because she was weak, but because for the first time, she broke the cycle. That's the power of practice in real life. Not perfection, but interruption. Not sainthood, but choice. And here's the bigger point. Awakening isn't something you do alone. Yes, you sit. Yes, you breathe. But the real fruit is how you treat people. How you show up in love, in work, in community. The Buddha said, I teach one thing, suffering and the end of suffering. Where does suffering show up most? In relationships, in power dynamics, in injustice. That's where awareness matters most. So if you want to measure your practice, don't just ask, how calm do I feel on the cushion? Ask, how do I treat my partner when I'm angry? How do I treat my coworker when I'm stressed? How do I treat strangers when I'm afraid? That's the real test. And yes, this is hard. It's easy to meditate for 10 minutes. It's hard to stay awake when someone insults you, when you feel invisible, when the world seems unfair. But that's the whole point. Practice is meant to make you comfortable. It's meant to make you free. And freedom means you're no longer a puppet pulled by craving and fear. You can choose presence. You can choose compassion. You can choose awareness, even in the fire. So here's my challenge, my ask For you in part 5, take one relationship, one workspace, one social context, and practice awareness there this week. Not all of them, just one. Maybe it's pausing before you argue with your partner. Maybe it's listening fully in your next meeting. Maybe it's noticing your body before posting that angry comment online. Just one context, one practice. Try it, fail, return, repeat, and then share it here. Because your story will remind someone else that this is possible. That's how Sangha grows, not in temples, but in daily life, in ordinary courage. So this is a lesson of part 5. Living awake isn't about escaping the world. It's about engaging it differently. It's about bringing awareness into love, into work, into society. It's about practicing not just when it's quiet, but when it's loud, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. And the long game isn't just your own freedom. It's a more compassionate world, one interaction at a time. That's how Buddhism, the religion of no religion, changes not only your mind but the world around you. And if you're ready to step into that, then join me for part 6, where we'll go even deeper into how practice reshapes not only who you are, but the partner, the friend, the parent, the human you're becoming. But for now, don't just nod. Pick your context. Practice. Share. Because awakening doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in the way you live, right here, right now, with everyone around you. So far, we've stripped away blind belief, part 1. Discover that Buddhism is practice, not theory, part 2. Build a daily kit for staying grounded, part 3. Committed to the long game of transformation, part 4. And brought awareness into relationships, work, and society, part 5. Now, part 6 is where it gets personal in a way that touches almost everyone. Love. Because let's be honest, most of us come to spirituality not because we want abstract wisdom, but because we're hurting. A breakup, a lonely bed, a marriage cracking under pressure, a gnawing sense that no matter how many swipes, dates, or situationships we go through, something's missing. And the story society tells us is simple. Find the right person and you'll be happy. Movies, songs, even family reinforce this fairy tale. But Buddhism and life itself tells a more uncomfortable, liberating truth. No partner, no matter how amazing, can save you from yourself. That sounds harsh, but it's actually freedom. Because it means love isn't about hunting down the one magical soulmate. It's about becoming someone who can actually love. Think about it. How many relationships have you, or people you know, sabotaged not because the person was wrong, but because the wounds you carried were unhealed? We demand affection from partners, when really we're projecting our own unmet needs. We crave constant reassurance because deep down we don't feel enough. We get angry at small slights because old pain is still festering. The Buddha would say, this is craving, clinging, ignorance at work, until you see it. You'll keep repeating it, partner after partner, heartbreak after heartbreak. But when you practice awareness, something shifts. Instead of hunting for someone to complete you, you start to stabilize yourself. You become less desperate, less reactive, less needy. And paradoxically, that makes you more attractive. Because real attraction isn't desperation, it's presence. It's someone who radiates steadiness in a chaotic world. Let me tell you about James. He spent most of his 20s bouncing from relationship to relationship, always convinced the next girlfriend would be the one. But after each breakup, he was crushed, spiraling into loneliness and self-blame. He finally stumbled into a meditation retreat, not for love, but for stress. And what he discovered shocked him. The more he sat with his loneliness instead of running from it, the less control it had. He realized he had been asking women to carry a burden they could never carry, to fix his emptiness. After a year of practice, he dated again, but this time, instead of grasping, he listened. He noticed his own insecurities flaring, but instead of dumping them on his partner, he breathed through them. The relationship didn't make him whole. It revealed that he was already whole. And that wholeness made the relationship richer, not desperate. This is a lesson. Buddhism doesn't promise you the perfect partner. What it offers is a way to become a partner worth being with. A partner who doesn't cling out of fear. A partner who can argue without cruelty. A partner who can love without needing to possess. And here's the kicker. The more you embody that, the more likely you are to attract someone aligned with that energy. Because like calls to like, if you're radiating fear and need, you'll attract chaos. If you're radiating steadiness and compassion, you'll attract someone who resonates with that. It's not magic, it's resonance. Now let's talk about long-term love, because attraction is only the beginning. Staying together, building something real, that's where practice truly shows its power. The honeymoon phase is easy, but when bills pile up, when kids arrive, when differences sharpen, the cracks show. And that's where most relationships collapse, because people think love should stay effortless forever. The Buddha never promised effortless anything. He promised freedom through effort, and love is no different. What if every fight was practice? What if every disappointment was practice? Instead of seeing conflict as failure, you see it as training. Training in patience, in forgiveness, in letting go of ego. Imagine your partner says something that stings. Old, you would lash out, maybe score points, maybe shut down. Practicing, you notices the hurt, breathes, asks, "What's really going on here? What do they need? What do I need?" That doesn't mean you become a doormat. It means you respond with awareness, not autopilot. Over time, that builds trust. Trust that you're not just lovers, but practitioners together. And let's not forget the hardest love of all, self-love. Sounds cliche, but think about how you talk to yourself. Would you ever talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself? Probably not. You'd never tell them they're worthless, unlovable, doomed. Yet we feed ourselves that poison daily. How can you receive healthy love from someone else if you don't believe you deserve it? Self-love isn't pampering. It's awareness. It's noticing the voice of self-criticism and not blindly believing it. It's practicing kindness toward yourself, the same way you toward a child or a dear friend. When you treat yourself that way, relationships stop being a desperate scramble for validation. They become an exchange of two whole beings, not two broken as begging to be completed. Here's where the rubber meets the road. Practice love like you practice meditation, daily, not just when it feels good, but especially when it's hard. When you want to shut down, stay open. When you want to attack, pause. When you want to demand, soften. Love isn't something that just happens. It's something you train in, just like the cushion, just like the breath. And if you train, love stops being a gamble. It becomes a path. So here's my challenge for part 6. Don't chase the perfect partner this week. Don't even chase fixing your relationship overnight. Pick one practice of love and do it daily. Maybe it's pausing before criticizing. Maybe it's actually listening without planning your comeback. Maybe it's writing down one kind thought about yourself every morning. Small, consistent practice. Do that, and you'll start to see love isn't out there waiting to be found. It's in here waiting to be lived. And when you live it, the right people naturally gather. That's not just romance. That's Sangha, community, chosen family. So part 6 isn't about how to find love. It's about how to be loved. Because the religion of no religion isn't about worshiping an idea. It's about living awake in every connection, with your partner, with your friends, with yourself. That's how awakening ripples outward, not in grand gestures, but in the ordinary courage of choosing presence over fear, again and again. And if you're ready, then part 7 will take us even further into how this practice doesn't just transform relationships, but your very sense of meaning, blessing, and the kind of life you're building. But for now, don't just nod. Pick your love practice. Live it. Share it. Because awakening isn't just for you. It's for every heart you touch. Up to this point, we've peeled away the illusions of blind belief, part 1. Understood that Buddhism is about practice, not theory, part 2. Built daily tools, part 3. Committed to the long game, part 4. Carry awareness into work, love, and society, part 5. And in part 6, we look straight at the deepest craving, love, and saw how practice makes us partners worth being with. Now, in part 7, we widen the lens again. This isn't just about who you love, but about the life you're building, about blessings. Because here's a truth many people don't want to admit. The life you attract reflects the mind you cultivate, not in some magical manifest whatever you want way, but in the real, grounded sense that your habits, your mindset, your presence shape the opportunities, relationships, and energy around you. And the Buddha was clear. When you cultivate wholesome qualities, blessings flow, not as luck, but as cause and effect. Think about it. When you live in constant anger, what do you attract? More anger, angry friends, toxic workplaces, relationships that run on fighting. When you live in generosity, what do you attract? Connection, community, trust. People want to be near you. This isn't mysticism. It's human nature. People gravitate towards certain energies. They sense when you're desperate, and they back away. They sense when you're grounded, and they lean in. So if you're wondering why your life feels stuck, ask, what qualities am I actually cultivating? Because the world mirrors them back. Let me tell you a story. Claire was a nurse working brutal night shifts, exhausted, burned out, snapping at her kids, convinced life was unfair. She tried dating apps, but every guy she met was flaky, careless, emotionally unavailable. She told me, why do I only attract jerks? The answer wasn't cosmic punishment. It was reflection. Claire was so drained, so negative, so resentful, that the only men who matched that energy were men living in avoidance and selfishness. She didn't need to fix men. She needed to cultivate herself. And when she finally began a simple gratitude practice, writing down 3 small blessings every night, something shifted. Not immediately, but over time. She started smiling more, noticing her children instead of resenting them, feeling moments of joy even at work. And guess what? Different men started showing up. Not perfect, but better. Why? Because she was different. She wasn't vibrating desperation anymore. She was radiating steadiness. That's what cultivating blessings is. Shifting the soil so better seeds can grow. Too many of us focus on hunting for the right partner, the right job, the right break, when really the deeper work is, am I the kind of soil that can sustain what I want? You can plant roses in poison ground, but they won't thrive. You can meet the perfect person, but if your inner life is chaos, the relationship will rot. So the question isn't just, how do I find them? It's, how do I become ready to receive them? And Buddhism gives us practical answers. Cultivate generosity, not just with money, but with time, attention, kindness. Cultivate patience, not just when things are easy, but especially when they're hard. Cultivate truthfulness, not just when convenient, but as a way of being. These aren't commandments, they're training. And the more you train, the more you become magnetic to the kind of life and love that lasts. Here's the part people miss. Blessings don't mean you get everything you want. They mean you get free enough to see what you truly need. The Buddha wasn't rich, but he was blessed. He didn't own anything, but he carried a presence that drew kings, peasants, and seekers alike. Why? Because he cultivated inner abundance. And here's the paradox. The more inner abundance you build, the less desperate you are for external abundance. That steadiness itself is what draws the right opportunities. Not luck, not magic, alignment. Let's get practical. Want to attract the partner you're meant for? Stop obsessing over dating strategies and start cultivating qualities. Be the kind of person who listens, who forgives, who laughs easily, who doesn't spiral when small things go wrong. Because the right person isn't looking for your highlight reel. They're looking for someone whose daily presence feels like home. Want to attract a life that feels meaningful? Stop chasing the big wins and start stacking small blessings. A 5-minute gratitude practice. A habit of pausing before reacting. A daily check-in. Am I acting from fear or from love right now? Do that, and your entire energy shifts. And when your energy shifts, life shifts. Slowly, subtly, but undeniably. Here's another story. Daniel, an entrepreneur, told me his career was a roller coaster. Wild highs, crushing lows, no stability. He practiced meditation off and on, but mostly when he was desperate. Then he hit bottom. A failed startup, broken engagement, depression. He could have given up, but instead he committed 20 minutes of meditation every morning, no matter what. At first, nothing happened. But after 3 months, people noticed. Investors trusted him more. His new partner said, "You feel calmer, safer." He hadn't won the lottery. He had cultivated steadiness. That steadiness was his blessing, and it changed everything. So here's the takeaway. Blessings aren't handed down, they're grown. You grow them with every choice, every pause, every act of awareness. And over time, those blessings attract a life and people you're meant for. Not because the universe is Santa Claus, but because cause and effect is real. You reap what you sow. And the good news is you can always start sowing differently. Here's my challenge for part 7. Instead of focusing on what's missing in your life, focus on what you're cultivating. Write down 3 blessings tonight. Not big ones, small ones. A meal, a smile, a breath. Then ask, what quality do I want to grow this week? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's kindness. Practice it daily in small ways, and notice how life shifts. Slowly, subtly, but surely. That's how blessings multiply. We've come far. In part 1, we tore down blind belief. In part 2, we discovered that Buddhism is practice, not theory. In part 3, we built our daily kit. In part 4, we committed to the long game. In part 5, we brought awareness into relationships, work, and society. In part 6, we went deep into love, seeing how practice makes us partners worth being with. In part 7, we talked about cultivating blessings, becoming the soil that can sustain the life and love we long for. Now, in part 8, we face the reality most of us try to run from: suffering, loss, impermanence. Because no matter how well you practice, no matter how many blessings you cultivate, life will still hurt. People you love will die. Relationships will end. Bodies will weaken. Plans will collapse. And the question isn't whether this will happen. It's how you will face it. This is where Buddhism gets both brutally honest and radically liberating. You don't get to escape impermanence, but you don't have to be broken by it either. Most of us live as if life owes us permanence. We cling to health as if sickness won't come. We cling to love as if people won't change. We cling to possessions as if they'll last forever. And when reality shatters those illusions, we collapse. We say, this shouldn't be happening. But the Buddha said, this is always happening. Everything you love is impermanent. Everything you build is impermanent. Even you, your body, your mind are impermanent. At first, that sounds depressing. But look closer. It's also the deepest invitation to live awake. Because if everything is passing, then every moment matters. If nothing is guaranteed, then gratitude becomes urgent. If life is fragile, then love can't be postponed. Let me tell you a story. A man named Alex lost his wife suddenly in a car accident. He was devastated, drowning in grief. At first, he couldn't accept it. His mind kept saying this can't be real. He numbed himself with alcohol, with work, with distraction. Nothing helped. Finally, out of desperation, he turned to meditation. At first, it felt unbearable. Sitting still meant facing the pain he had avoided. But slowly, with guidance, he learned to let grief wash over him without running. He learned to cry, to breathe, to let sorrow exist without trying to erase it. And something shifted. The grief didn't vanish, but it softened. He began to see love hadn't died with his wife. It lived in memory, in gratitude, in the way he treated others now. He told me later, meditation didn't take away the loss. It gave me a way to survive it without losing myself. That's the power of practice in the face of impermanence, not escape, but resilience. Here's the thing. Pain is guaranteed, but suffering is optional. The Buddha defines suffering as the second layer we add on top of pain. The clinging, the resistance, the why me. Pain says this hurts. Suffering says this shouldn't hurt, this should last, this is unfair. And that second layer is what crushes us. Practice is about peeling it back, returning to the raw pain, which is hard but bearable. Think about heartbreak. Pain is the ache of losing someone. Suffering is the endless replay of what they said, the fantasies of getting them back, the rage of how it ended. Pain is one arrow. Suffering is shooting yourself with 10 more. Buddhism says, stop shooting yourself. Feel the arrow you can't avoid, but don't keep adding more. And impermanence isn't just about loss. It's about opportunity. Because if nothing lasted, imagine if pain lasted forever. Imagine if heartbreak never healed, if sorrow never eased. Impermanence is also grace. It means joy fades, yes, but it also means grief fades. Everything moves. Everything flows. And when you see that, you stop clinging to what's gone and you stop fearing what's to come. You live awake, here, now. You tell your partner you love them today, because tomorrow isn't promised. You savor your child's laugh, because you know they'll grow. You appreciate your health, because one day it will shift. Impermanence isn't the enemy. It's a teacher reminding you to live. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. Facing impermanence takes courage. It's easier to distract yourself, to pretend things will last. But deep down, you already know they won't. And pretending doesn't protect you. It only makes the shock worse when reality hits. Practice is about training before the storm. You meditate, you reflect, you cultivate awareness so that when loss comes, and it will, you're not shattered. You're shaken, yes, but not destroyed. Like a tree rooted deep in the earth. You still bend, but you don't break. Here's my challenge for part 8. Pick one thing in your life you've been clinging to as if it will last forever. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's your job. Take 5 minutes today and imagine losing it. not to torture yourself, but to practice gratitude. Imagine what it would feel like, and then let that awareness sharpen your love for it right now. Don't wait until it's gone to appreciate it. Practice appreciation now. That's the medicine of impermanence. So, part 8 isn't about escaping suffering. It's about learning to hold it without drowning. It's about seeing impermanence not as a curse, but as a teacher. Because everything you love will change, but that doesn't make love pointless. It makes love urgent. It makes life precious. And the more you practice this, the freer you become, not because you stop caring, but because you stop clinging. That's how Buddhism, the religion of no religion, gives you a way to face loss without being lost. And if you're ready, then in part 9, we'll take the final step, how to integrate all of this into a life that isn't just about personal peace, but about serving others, creating meaning, and leaving behind a legacy of love and awareness. But for now, don't just nod. Pick your impermanence practice. Face it, live it, share it, because awakening isn't about avoiding death. It's about learning how to live before it comes. We've walked a long road together, from part 1's rejection of blind belief to part 2's discovery that Buddhism is practice, not dogma. In part 3, we built a toolkit for daily awareness. In part 4, we committed to the long game. In part 5, we brought practice into relationships and society. In part 6, we learned how to love with depth, not just passion. In part 7, we cultivated blessings, becoming fertile ground for the life we want. And in part 8, we faced the hard truth, impermanence, loss, grief, change. We saw that suffering isn't in the pain, it's in our clinging. Now, in part 9, we arrive at the real point of all of this. Because if practice is only about calming your mind, you've missed the mark. If meditation is just a private escape, you've missed the heart of it. Buddhism, at its core, isn't about personal peace alone. It's about how you show up for the world. It's about the legacy you leave. The Buddha didn't sit under the Bodhi tree just to feel good. He got up and walked back into the village, into the mess of human life, and said, "Here's a way out." He didn't escape the world. He served it, and so must we. Here's the truth. Your life will end. Your body will die. Your possessions will scatter. But what remains, what truly lasts, is the impact you've had on others, the kindness you showed, the wounds you healed, the wisdom you passed on. That's your real inheritance, your real legacy. And Buddhism trains you to live in a way that makes that legacy worth leaving. Think about someone you admire who's no longer alive. Maybe a grandparent, a teacher, a friend. What do you remember? Not their bank account, not their titles. You remember how they made you feel, their presence, their courage, their kindness. That's the only thing that outlives us. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need wealth or fame to leave that kind of mark. You just need awareness, compassion, and the courage to act. Let me tell you about Maria. She was a nurse for 40 years. She never wrote a book, never gave a TED Talk, never made 6 figures. But when she died, the church was overflowing. People stood outside in the rain just to honor her. Why? Because over decades, she had sat at the bedsides of thousands of patients. She had held their hands when no one else would. She had whispered comfort to the dying, laughter to the lonely, calm to the panicked. Her life was her practice, and her practice was her legacy. That's Buddhism in action. Not chanting in a cave, but showing up in the mess of the world with presence and love. But let's be clear. Legacy doesn't mean exhausting yourself to please everyone. It means aligning your actions with your deepest values. It means asking, what matters most to me, and how can I live that every day? Maybe your legacy is raising children who feel deeply loved. Maybe it's creating art that wakes people up. Maybe it's building a business rooted in integrity. Maybe it's just being the one person in your community who listens without judgment. Don't compare. Don't copy. Live your legacy your way. Here's the challenge. Most of us put legacy off. We think, I'll figure out later. I'll serve when I'm stable. I'll give back when I'm successful. But life doesn't wait. The time is now. Every interaction is a chance to shape your legacy. Every conversation leaves a trace. Every choice builds or erodes a story people will tell about you. And the truth is, you're already leaving a legacy, whether you intend to or not. The only question is it one you're proud of? The Buddha framed this as karma, not a cosmic scoreboard, but a simple truth that actions ripple. Every word, every thought, every choice sends waves out into the world. Some heal, some harm. And over time, those ripples add up to the ocean of your legacy. That's why practice matters, not just for your inner peace, but because your inner state shapes the way you ripple out into others. A restless mind spreads restlessness. A kind heart spreads safety. A clear mind spreads wisdom. Practice isn't selfish. It's a foundation of service. And here's the paradox. When you live this way, awake, compassionate, aligned, you stop obsessing over legacy. You don't sit around asking, how will people remember me? You just live fully. You show up. You serve. And legacy takes care of itself. The Buddha never asked to be remembered. He just lived so deeply that people couldn't forget. So, let me leave you with 3 final practices for building a legacy worth leaving. Clarity of values. Sit down and ask yourself, what truly matters to me? Not what my parents wanted, not what society says, but me. Is it love, truth, creativity, service? Write it down. Let it guide your choices. Consistency of practice. Don't wait for big heroic moments. Legacy is built in the small things, repeated. The daily kindness, the honest word, the steady effort. Every drop counts. Courage of service. Don't hide your gifts. Don't wait until you're ready. Someone needs what you have right now. Speak up. Show up. Share your practice in the world. That's how you turn personal awakening into collective healing. And when the end comes, and it will, you won't be grasping. You won't be asking, did I matter? Because you'll know. You'll feel in the lives you touched, in the love you gave, in the peace you carried. Death won't erase that. Death will only seal it. So here we are, the end of this journey, but also the beginning of yours. Parts 1 through 9 weren't just lessons. They were a map back to yourself, back to practice, back to living a life that doesn't just chase happiness, but radiates meaning. Don't file it away. Don't just nod and scroll. Live it, practice it, share it, because the world doesn't need more people who believe in Buddhism. It needs more people who practice wakefulness, who embody compassion, who leave behind a trail of healing. That's the point of all of this. Not inner escape, not dogma, not belief, but freedom. Freedom lived so fully that it becomes contagious. Freedom lived so fearlessly that it outlives you. That is your legacy. That is your gift. And that, finally, is a religion of no religion. So here we are. We walked through 9 chapters of this journey together, peeling back layers of belief, of fear, of craving, of clinging. And now, as we close, I want to bring it all back to the simplest, sharpest truth. Buddhism is not about believing. It's not about worshiping. It's not about escaping into rituals or hiding in doctrines. It's about practice. It's about living fully awake in this moment, exactly as it is, without needing it to be anything else. That's it. Simple, direct, radical. The religion of no religion. And if you really take that in not just as a nice idea, but as a way of life, it changes everything. It means you don't have to wait until you're better or ready to start. You don't need someone else's permission. You don't need to be in a monastery in Asia. You don't even need to call yourself a Buddhist. You can start right here, right now, with one breath, with one act of awareness, with one choice not to run away from what is. That's the lesson. Stop outsourcing your freedom. Stop waiting for some savior, some belief system, some perfect moment. The Buddha's gift wasn't a new religion. It was a mirror. He held it up and said, Look at your mind. Look at your cravings. Look at your suffering. Look at the way you run from discomfort. And then he gave tools to work with that reality. Meditation, mindfulness, compassion. Tools that don't require faith, only courage. Tools that don't ask for obedience, only honesty. Tools that don't promise escape, but deliver freedom. And let's be real, freedom is terrifying because it means no one else is responsible for your awakening. Not your parents, not your pastor, not your government, not even the Buddha, just you. That's heavy, but it's also thrilling because it means nothing stands in your way either. You don't have to wait. You don't have to ask. You just have to practice. Here's the paradox. When you stop chasing meaning, life becomes meaningful. When you stop demanding permanence, every moment glows with impermanence. When you stop trying to control, peace appears in the very flow you once feared. That's the secret hidden in plain sight. That's why people say the Dharma is obvious once you see it. But you have to see, not believe. See. And if you're an American hearing this, you know how much this matters in our culture right now. We live in a country addicted to more stuff, more distraction, more certainty, more noise. We hustle, we grind, we compare, we consume. But deep down, we're exhausted. We're anxious. We're lonely. And the promise of more never delivers. Buddhism cuts right through that. It says, stop running. Stop numbing. Stop scrolling. Just sit. Just breathe. Just wake up. There's no product to buy. No secret code. No guru to worship. Just practice. Just awareness. Just freedom. That's the lesson I hope you carry from all of this. Not a new set of beliefs, but a new way of being. A way that doesn't depend on someone else telling you what's true. A way that doesn't crumble when the world shakes. A way that doesn't end with you, but flows into everyone you touch. Because your freedom becomes contagious. Your peace becomes a gift. Your clarity becomes a light. And that, more than anything, is what the world needs right now. Not more arguments. Not more dogmas. More awake people. So as we close, I want to ask you directly, what are you waiting for? Not tomorrow. Not when life slows down. Not when you feel ready. Now, today, with this breath. Start small. Start messy. Start anyway. Put down the phone for a minute and just watch your thoughts. Just feel your body. Just notice your craving and let it go. That's practice. That's freedom. That's the doorway. And it's open, always open. And here's my ask. If this journey spoke to you, even one part of it, don't let it stop here. Carry it forward. Share it. Talk about it with a friend. Reflect on it tonight. Practice it tomorrow. And if you want more, if you want to keep going deeper, then stay connected. Subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment with your biggest insight. Hit like, share it with someone you know who's struggling. Because this isn't about building my channel. It's about building a community of people who are tired of being asleep, who are ready to live awake. And I want you to be part of that. I'll leave you with this. The Buddha never asked us to believe in him. He only asked us to look, to practice, to see for ourselves. That's the challenge I leave you with. Don't believe me. Don't believe anyone. Test it. Live it. Try it. And when you do, you'll see freedom was never out there. It was here all along. This is the end of our series, but it's not the end of your journey. It's the beginning. So go, practice, wake up, and let your life, your real, messy, beautiful, impermanent life, be your temple, your teacher, your path. That is the true meaning of Buddhism. That is the religion of no religion. And that is the legacy you get to leave.